Okay, let's jump into this. What does it truly mean to be a man in today's world? It feels like a question that's, well, constantly shifting, maybe getting more complex.
It really does.
Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take your curiosity, look into the sources you send us, and try to find some clarity together.
And today, you sent us some really interesting stuff, excerpts from a YouTube conversation. It's about masculinity, men's circles, and features Jacek Masowski from Fundacja Masculinum.
Right, so we're taking a deep dive specifically into that material.
Exactly.
Our mission, then, for this deep dive is pretty clear. Let's try and unpack what men's circles actually are, how they work in practice according to this source.
And what the benefits seem to be for the guys who get involved.
Yeah, think of this as our guided tour through the key ideas from that conversation. More exploration than anything else.
Okay, so right off the bat, the source brings up this idea that the situation for contemporary men, particularly in Poland, it says, is absolutely exceptional.
Exceptional. That's a strong word. It even suggests, doesn't it, that it might be more challenging to navigate being a man than a woman right now.
That's the angle, yeah. And the reasoning goes something like this. Women had an earlier emancipation movement, right? So they gained freedom to step into roles or adopt traits previously seen as, well, purely masculine.
Ugh.
The source uses the phrase walking in pants.
Right, adopting those kind of external freedoms, those capabilities.
Exactly. And the parallel the source makes is that men are only just sort of beginning a similar journey now.
Okay.
Exploring and maybe incorporating traits previously associated more with femininity, like sensitivity. It's framed as a different kind of frontier for men.
And the source points to modern fatherhood as a really key area where this is happening.
It does. Men increasingly bringing conscious engagement, sensitivity into being a dad.
So it's not just redefining fatherhood itself.
No, it's potentially paving the way for men to integrate these qualities into other parts of life, too. That's the idea presented.
But navigating all these different expectations, sometimes conflicting ones, the source says it's tough.
Incredibly complex and difficult, yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely not painted as a simple picture.
And this struggle, this complexity, it leads into a concept the source brings up. Rewitalizacja Masowski.
Revitalization of masculinity.
What does that mean in this context?
Well, it's not about just dragging back some old, rigid idea of what a man should be. As the source puts it, it's more about giving masculinity renewed value today.
Okay.
Seeing it as, a valuable asset, not just a problem or something inherently negative that needs fixing.
I like the metaphor they used, like being an archaeologist.
Dusting off the good stuff, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dusting off the good aspects of masculinity that maybe got buried under negative stereotypes or perceptions over time.
And the source, it makes a point of pushing back a bit on a narrative it describes.
Which one?
The one that sometimes, maybe in the past, portrayed women as great and men as sort of lost or problematic.
Oh.
The source argues that view is skewed. It says, look, both men and women have strengths, both have weaknesses. It's more balanced.
Got it. Now, within this discussion, the source also touches on something pretty heavy. Parental alienation.
Yes, it does. And just to be clear, we're reporting what the source states here.
Right.
It identifies parental alienation as a systemic issue, stating that mothers are often the main perpetrators and that this causes significant harm to the children.
And the source highlights it as a taboo topic needing open discussion.
Exactly. We're relaying how the source presents this within its discussion of men's issues, maintaining neutrality ourselves.
Okay. So shifting gears slightly, but still related. The source talks about why it's so hard to define masculinity using older models today. The warrior, the hunter.
Right, those traditional roles, or Eidos, as the source calls them.
The argument is they were pretty fixed, weren't they?
Yeah.
For societies that were, well, more stable, shorter lifespans, maybe?
Yeah, designed to prepare men for a specific, predictable function in that society.
Which is just not today's world.
Not at all. It's dynamic, unpredictable. The source uses that stat about how hard it is for parents to prepare kids for jobs.
It's a 65% one.
Yeah. 65% of primary students might end up in jobs that don't even exist yet.
That's wild. It really highlights the uncertainty. So if those external roles are so shaky, what does the source suggest men should ground themselves in?
Well, because the external is so fluid, the source argues that focusing on core values becomes crucial.
Ah, okay.
These values act like a more stable internal compass for navigating all that unpredictability.
An internal compass. And this need for an internal compass, this leads us to what feels like maybe the central point the source keeps coming back to.
Which is?
That men absolutely need other men.
Absolutely need them, yes,
Yeah.
to build that internal strength, that compass, to really root themselves in their masculinity.
Why is that need so strong, according to this material?
It points to a big lack, what it calls the great gap after fathers. That's the Polish term, olbrzymia luka po ojcach.
Right, the great gap, meaning either fathers who weren't there or maybe father figures who were inadequate in some way.
Exactly. That's presented as a primary reason men lack this kind of foundational support and guidance.
So in that absence, places like men's circles, they function in a specific way.
The source uses the term collective father, or zbioroi osiak.
A collective father.
Yeah, the idea is the circle can provide some of that missing paternal guidance, that support system, collectively.
Okay, so if that's the why, the need for other men, the gap left by fathers.
Yeah.
Let's really dig into what a men's circle actually is. In practice, according to the source.
Well, it describes it pretty simply. A group of men, they meet regularly, they look at problems or life issues together.
And it's really important. The source is very clear on what it is not.
Yes, definitely. It explicitly states it is not professional psychotherapy.
Even if a therapist happens to be running it.
Even then, they're meant to leave their specific therapeutic techniques at the door, so to speak. Healing might happen as a byproduct, but that's not its primary defined function. It's fundamentally called a group of support, a grupa usparsha.
And it pushes back on misconceptions, right?
Well,
It's not just a place to complain endlessly
or cry in handkerchiefs, as the source puts it, yeah.
Or is it just like, grabbing a beer with your mates at the pub?
No, and that distinction from casual pub talk seems really key. The source talks about circles being a space for truth. Prada.
Truth. What's the difference there? How does that work?
It means it's a space where men are encouraged to talk about what's genuinely happening in their lives, the real stuff.
Okay.
Not just defaulting to superficial topics. The source mentions talking about tires or maybe girls or cars. Things used as deflection, deflection.
Deflection. So avoiding the deeper issues.
Exactly. The rules, the container of the circle, they encourage going deeper than that surface level chat.
Okay, so a dedicated space for truth, support. Different from therapy, different from just casual hanging out. How does it actually work then? What are the benefits the source highlights?
Well, one powerful point it makes is you don't have to share anything if you don't want to.
No pressure.
Right. But you can do a lot. There's no obligation to immediately, open up or take off your mask. Listening is really valued.
So just being there is okay.
Absolutely. The source mentions men who just sat and listened for a long time, maybe months, before feeling ready to speak.
And what happens through that listening? Or when men do eventually share?
It provides a mirror. That's the word used, lustro.
A mirror.
Yeah. You hear other guys talking about their struggles, their doubts, challenges, and you realize, hey, my stuff isn't unique. I'm not the only one.
So it normalizes things.
Exactly. The source says this massively reduces that feeling of being somehow broken or that you have to hide your flaws all the time.
Which pushes right back against that old stereotype, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That men have to cope alone, figure it all out themselves.
Completely. In the circle, you see how others have handled similar difficulties. Maybe they succeeded, maybe they failed, but you learn from their experience.
Like a living library.
The source calls it a living book, yeah. And it says this lifts an unbelievable life pressure, just knowing you're not alone in it.
The source also talks about loneliness, right? Modern men having maybe lots of contacts, but few deep connections.
Yeah, it uses the term Teflon relationships. Superficial ones, Teflano, things just slide off, nothing sticks deep. Men's circles, by contrast, are designed to build deep relationships. Real trust, authentic friendships,
Friends. Okay.
guys you feel genuinely supported by. The source has that phrase, knowing they would go into fire for you. That level of connection.
Wow. There's that anecdote too, isn't there?
Yeah.
About the man in crisis.
Oh, yeah. The one who, after being in the circle, had this realization, wishing his own father had told him these kinds of things years ago. It's quite moving.
It is. And there's another one about a guy leaving the circle after years.
Feeling autonomous, right? Autonomics, Didi.
Yeah, like he was ready to take full responsibility for his life. The source compares it to a son finally feeling grown enough to leave his father's home.
It suggests a real fundamental shift in internal strength, doesn't it?
It really does. The source uses another image. Having a wall behind my back.
A wall that can't be knocked over.
Knowing the group is there, it provides support in tough times losing a job. a personal crisis.
Even facing big anxieties, like the source mentions discussions around the war and the fears that brought up.
And there's strength in the mix of people, too, right? The diversity.
Definitely. The source points out you might have a soldier, a doctor, a lawyer, maybe a cook, all in the same circle.
Different skills, different perspectives.
Yeah, they bring different competencies, life experiences. It forms a powerful combo, as the source puts it, for mutual support.
It sounds like building this depth, this connection, the source calls it you and you. It doesn't happen overnight.
No, the source is very clear on that. It takes time. You need to trust the process. Zawodojciec.
Right.
The results aren't always immediate or maybe measurable by typical goals like, I achieved X. But the internal shift, the feeling of being grounded, that's the real outcome described.
Who typically goes to these circles, according to the source? Is it just men in crisis?
Well, statistically, it says many men do come when they're in crisis, or maybe after starting individual therapy. That's often a trigger.
But not exclusively.
No. The source also notes younger men, guys in their 20s, are joining too.
Why them?
Often, it seems, they're seeking a more conscious way of living than maybe previous generations did. They value hearing the experiences of older men, that living book idea.
So again, it reinforces it's a process,
Yeah.
not a quick fix, and not just for men who are struggling right now.
Exactly. And the source connects this internal work to something broader, too.
How so?
The strength built inside these circles, it's not just personal. The source suggests it ties into societal strength.
Okay.
It points out that in crisis situations, society often turns to men for action. Military service is the example given.
And the argument is?
That a strong, rooted masculinity grounded in that internal compass we talked about is actually vital for a strong society. It kind of pushes back against any idea that weaker men would somehow lead to a stronger society.
So the internal work helps men become more grounded individuals.
Which benefits everyone, families, communities. That's the perspective.
Now, what about women? How does the source say women perceive these men's circles?
It presents a couple of viewpoints. It says some women are very supportive. They value their partners doing this inner work, building themselves up, becoming maybe more authentic partners.
That makes sense.
But it also acknowledges that others might be hesitant, maybe wary, suspicious even.
Wow.
Perhaps fearing a loss of control or just unsure what happens there. The source suggests this could sometimes stem from their own negative past experiences with men, or maybe their own fathers.
Right.
But the source makes a really crucial point here, emphasizing it. Men's circles are explicitly not anti-women.
Not about a battle of the sexes?
No, not at all. They're designed as a space for men to focus on their masculine aspects, their growth as men, independent of women, not against them.
And the outcome?
The source suggests this focused work helps men grow into more authentic, grounded individuals and partners, which ultimately is seen as a valuable outcome for many women, too.
Okay, so let's bring this back to you, the listener. Thinking about all this, what does this concept of revitalizing masculinity, as this source talks about it, mean for you?
Yeah, it might be worth reflecting on your own relationships with other men in your life. Do you have spaces where you can experience that kind of truth and depth the source describes?
Think about those benefits we discussed, that reduced pressure, the deeper connection, building that inner compass. Can you see areas in your own life where you might be looking for that kind of growth or that kind of support?
The source really presents men's circles as one path, obviously not the only one, but one valuable path for men who are seeking to live more consciously, to build stronger foundations, maybe, within themselves and with other men.
So just to quickly recap the main takeaways from this deep dive, based on the source.
Okay.
We look at its view on the unique challenges men face today, the value it puts on revitalizing masculinity, and that really crucial need it highlights for men to connect deeply with other men.
Yeah, and we explored how, according to the source, men's circles offer a unique space for that. It's non-therapeutic, but provides truth, support, shared experience.
Building those deep bonds, forging that inner compass.
Exactly. And remember, the source stresses it's a process. It takes time, commitment, but the rewards, personally and relationally, are presented as significant.
So here's a final thought for you to maybe mull over, building on this material.
Go for it.
If defining what it means to be a man isn't a fixed thing, if it's maybe a question that keeps coming back throughout life, what's the value then in consciously seeking out those mirrors, that support, on what is really a continuous journey?
That's a great question to leave people with.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening. And just a reminder, our source material today came from that conversation related to Frundacia masculinum and their work with men. If you're interested, that's a potential place to explore these ideas further, as the source itself suggests.
And borrowing that final encouragement from the source,
Yeah.
it's worth taking the step,
Yeah.
Warsaw, be consistent and trust the process.
Absolutely. Wishing you all the best.
Until the next deep dive.